Hey everybody, welcome back to the flight deck. Today we're doing something a little bit different. I've recently purchased the Bell-47G Helicopter from Fly Inside. This is one of my favorite helicopters. It's a very early one that came out in the late 1940s. And it saw military use in the Korean War. And for anyone who's watched the TV show MASH, it is the helicopter that would fly the wounded into the mobile army surgical hospitals. So I figured we'd do some sightseeing flights in this thing, and for the first flight, what better flight we can do than from my home airport here in Brampton. Just take a look around. Just swing the camera around so we can see it here. This is where I've done a lot of flying over the years. There she is. And we're going to fly down over the city of Toronto and land at the Island Airport down on the waterfront. On the way, we will fly over Pearson. We're going to assume that ATC has given us permission to fly directly overhead down runways 15 and 33 as they're using the east-west runways for landing and takeoff. And then we will come in from the west over the city. We'll take a look at the city itself and then land down at the island. So this is Roman Designs CNC3 Payware Airport, not too expensive at all, which makes it look very much like the real thing. We're also using Roman Designs freeware scenery buff to Toronto and Mississauga, the area we're going to be flying over. The default autogen is horrendous, and to be honest, while the improved scenery is not 100%, it is a lot better, and you can pick out the buildings and what they are. You're not meant to get right up close to them anyway. So let's hop on board the aircraft and we will get her fired up. I'll talk you through it, and it is very easy to fly. I'm in easy mode. I'm not a helicopter pilot. I've got very little time in real helicopters, and they are really tough to fly. So I'm in easy mode. I can just about get away with it with the about 50 minutes of practice I've had with it so far. So we will see how we do. First thing I'm going to do, though, because I didn't do this coming in, is I'm just going to give myself a little bit more fuel. Yeah, but 83% should be good for our trip down today. So let's hop on board, and we'll take a look around. But before we start, let's take a look at it from the outside. This is a very basic aircraft. It is a piston-powered aircraft. You can see the engine right there. It is a, turn the speed of the drone down. It is a 6-cylinder, horizontally opposed engine. In this model, it's the Lycoming 6-cylinder. It has two external fuel tanks. As you can see, they're called saddle tanks on either side of the swash plate there and the prop shaft. It has a 2-person canopy, bubble canopy, and you can see the 2 people in there in that weird seating position. She has skids. There's a landing light on the front. You come around. It is all exposed at the back. It is a lightweight helicopter. You can see the drive shaft coming back for the rear rotor, the anti-torque rotor. And that is pretty much it. It's a little deflector to prevent it from striking the ground if we hit tail first. And then you've got a 2-bladed main rotor, and the counterweight is the shorter silver bit there. Now, 2-bladed rotors have a distinct sound. If you know the sound of the Huey, very distinctive slapping sound. This one gets it a little bit too. Smaller blades, so it's not as pronounced, but it does kick in as well. So we'll hop on board now. There we go, and we'll take a look around the cockpit. So over here you can see we've got attached to the frame of the door a compass, which is very simple. And then there's our instrument stack and everything we need right there. We have, there's kind of 6 axis of control on this thing, but because I don't have a proper helicopter collective I'll be using governors to keep everything properly lined up. But you have here what's called the cyclic, which is right here, joystick in most aircraft. That controls the pitch of the rotor. So if we go back and look at the swash plate, that's what rotates the rotor head. As you can see, it's moving now, and the rotors are moving up top. So once that's spinning and that's your disc, that controls the angle of the disc, which gives you your left, right, forward, and back. Let's see if I can get myself hooked up here again. Let's just do that. On the bottom here, you can see right here, this is your collective. If you pull up on it, you increase the bite of the blades into the air. If you push down, it decreases the bite of the blades, kind of the pitch of the propeller type of idea. On here we also have the starter button and we have the governor switch, and that will get us into the mode where I don't need to work the throttle. The throttle is the cork colored thing here. It's a roll on, roll off. You'd use with your left hand. So not only are you pulling up and down, you're rolling on and rolling off, you're controlling the stick, and then you've got the anti-torque pedals. They're not rudder pedals. They control the pitch on the rear prop, the anti-torque prop, and that prevents you from spinning, because when the propeller is spinning in one direction, the engine wants to spin the other way, or the engine wants, which is mounted to the aircraft, wants to turn counter to that rotation. So that's to keep it going. And there you can see the collective up and down and what it does with the prop there, moving the pitch on it. So we're going to start her up, and then I'll go through what the instrumentation is, because this does need to warm up a little bit. Alright, so the instrument lights are set to on. We'll turn the battery on, and we'll turn the alternator on. We're going to put the mixture in full rich. Carburetor heat is in cold. And we'll prime the engine. Should be good enough. And we'll basically come down here now, and we'll turn on the beacon light. And starting the engine. Mags are on both, and we press the starter. There we go. Oop, I want the governor off, actually. We're on both. Sure, got to hold it down. Hang on. There we go. So we are up and running. You can see the blade slowly starting to turn. When that reaches 500 RPM, we're going to engage the governor, and that'll bring it up to speed. But this will give the oil temperature time to come up to a good level. So on top here we have a transponder. We're going to turn that on to standby, let it warm up. We have simple radio, 2-frequency radio we can use. Here's our fuel primer. This is our temperatures. Not sure, this filter air temperature and carburetor air temperature. So we use that for looking for if we have to use carburetor heat. A little bit of circuit breakers, a voltmeter. So on the upper left of the dials we have the RPM gauge. So the upper needle is the engine. So the engine is currently sitting around 1300 RPM. The bottom dial, or bottom arrow, is the rotor, and the rotor is slowly coming up. It's about 200 RPM right now, and it's slowly spinning up. We have our airspeed next to it. The next row down, manifold pressure. We don't want to exceed 25 inches of manifold pressure, or we could kill the engine, which is not good, especially in a helicopter. So we're going to maintain it below that. We have our altimeter, which is currently set. That's correct altitude here. Below that, we have our, scooch down a little bit, there we go. Oil temperature on this side. On the left, fuel gauge is not working. And then we have our transmission temperature on the right. Or sorry, that's oil pressure. There's our oil temperature on the top. It's come up to about 25 degrees. Transmission temperature coming up. We have a vertical speed indicator on the left. Then the bottom gauges is our fuel tank. And then our cylinder head temperature. And we can turn on our other lights now. We'll put on our nav lights. And we come to this side. We have landing light and strobe light. We'll turn the strobe lights on. We don't need landing lights today. And that is good. So she's slowly coming up to speed. You guys shouldn't be walking around that close, but can't tell these ground crews anything. So she's got a good fuel load. She'll fly for a while. Not sure what the exact range is, but good hour and a half or so. Again, it was a utility helicopter used for a little bit of reconnaissance and that. And then on the landing legs, on the flat horizontal pieces, they would strap stretchers on board, put a little canopy to cover the head, and they could strap patients in there and then fly them from the battlefield back to the hospitals if they needed surgery. Alright, so we're about 500 RPM now. She's warmed up, so we're going to turn the governor on. That'll bring everything up and sync up our rotor speed to our engine speed, which is what we want. There's that thumping sound you get from dual bladed props. And there we go, the RPMs are now up in the green. That sounds so cool. So the thing about flying a helicopter is that everything is a zero-sum game. So if you think of as your lift as 100, whenever you change one thing, that number's got to balance back up to 100. So if you pull up on the collective to increase the bite into the air, the rotor is going to slow down, so you have to add power. If you add power, you're going to make the engine work a little bit harder, so it's going to want to start to turn, so you're going to have to counteract with the anti-torque pedals. All stuff like that. And when you move the rotor disc using the cyclic, because the lift is no longer perfectly vertical, you're going to have to add collective to keep that lift up, which means you're adding power, which means you're on the rudders, and it's a constant working. Somebody once explained it. Airplane is holding a pencil by the eraser between your thumb and your finger and letting it dangle. It's very stable. You stop moving, it goes back to hanging straight down. Flying a helicopter is taking that same pencil, placing it, holding your finger out and balancing it by the point of the pencil on your finger, and you're constantly having to move your hand around to keep it pointing upwards. So that's the way it is. I do have track IR on because it's going to be, you can't touch any switches once you're in here. Once you get going, you're kind of stuck with your hands on the controls. So we'll just get ourselves seated. There we go. So we're going to take off. We're going to head south over the airport and then down over the city, and we'll see what we can see. So everybody is clear. So we're going to come up on the collective now. When we get about 23 inches of manifold pressure, we should get light on the skids. And it's very gentle controls. Hear it changing slightly. There we go. And basically you counteract all the movement, so if it goes left you move it right, if it goes forward you go back, and it's very gentle. So we're just going to get a little bit of forward motion here. And as you go forward you add a little bit more throttle, a little bit more forward, a little bit more throttle. airspeed up. I do have AI traffic on, so hopefully we'll see some airplanes flying around. We'll take it around the airport here. We'll just take a look. We'll do a circle and then head off to the south. There are procedures for helicopters at airports. I'm completely not following them. And we'll fly at about 500 feet, so that'll be between 1,400 and 1,500 foot altitude at this point. So there's Brampton Airport. You can see we're up in the countryside here. And Roman Designs has done a really amazing job here. A little bit of that wind. We're doing about 45 miles an hour now. There we go. You can see some aircraft lights ahead of us. We'll start going here. Now, once you get some speed up, you can ease off on the rudder, the anti-torque pedals, and she can fly sideways. She's kind of self-correcting at this point. Kind of keep the altitude down, so I'm just playing with the power. I'm going to keep that speed down to between 50 and 60. There we go. 1,400 feet. And it is hands-on constant. Is actually a new housing development that's going in. Looks pretty good. Directly south of us is the city of Mississauga, which is on the western side of Toronto. And the Toronto International Airport is to the east of that, so we're kind of heading in that direction now. We'll take a little take some views. I set up some custom views, so we've got, there's the looking from the back skid, looking forward. Go to the other side, looking back. Then I got the belly shot. Some nice views from the back. Again, there's no autopilot or anything in here, so it's all being hand flown. Front view. Of course, this is an internal view, so there's no pilot figures, and then a little bit of a one from down there. Pretty cool, but can't do that too long. See, we're climbing, and I don't want to be climbing. keep it down where we can see everything. And the ground here does slope away. When you get down to the bottom at Lake Ontario, it's only about 500 feet. So there is about a 400-foot decrease. There we go. We'll keep that gentle descent. We're doing about 55 miles an hour here out over these suburbs. We're probably looking up going, what the hell is this guy doing up there? Unlike an airplane, again, if you move the stick to the right, you're not going to get it to turn right. It's just going to start drifting to the right because it's going to move the rotor disc. So it doesn't actually turn. You really have to coordinate with the anti-torque pedals. So the lake there. More forward speed. Now ideally, if you can adjust the spring settings on your joystick and try to get them down to no pressure, it'd be a lot easier. I'm using constant forward pressure on this because there is no trim, there are no hydraulics, and this is actually the one helicopter I've got a little bit of time flying. And with everything I have flown, this was the absolute most work I ever had to do. Literally sweating when I was done that half-hour lesson on how to hover. It was pretty intensive. We're back down to 1,500 feet. A nice golf course over there. Try to pick up the pace a little bit here. See if we can hover in that 55 mile an hour area. Some more new construction by the looks of it. Deformation there. So we're starting to see Toronto ahead of us, but we've got Mississauga there off to the right slightly. We're over the city of Brampton, which sits on top of Mississauga to the north. Yeah, you can see we're kind of got a little bit of a sideways fly here. That's okay, makes it easier on me a little bit. It's like a high school or a college down here, the sports track. Aircraft coming into land. I can see the lights. Another one out there. We're just going to follow the highway down on this side. It's the Highway 410, I believe. Looking for a way to see the terrain and see what it can offer. Probably not so much in the cities, because there can be a lot left to be desired there, but definitely out in the countryside, which I'll do some tours of as well. This is a great way to do it. I don't know if you can see it. I can see the control tower for Pearson now. Kind of heading straight towards it. We've got our speed. Our altitude is good. We're holding at about 1,600 feet. We'll take it. Plenty of fuel. Temperatures are good. Everything's in the green. Great thing about this helicopter is look at this visibility. You can see everything. I do have the doors on, as it is still a little bit of a chilly day here. You can take the doors off, which we will do in the nice hot weather. Except we got to go around and somebody taking off. This AI traffic can't fly. There will be some hesitations occasionally because we are loading in a lot of terrain and terrain data. There's the airport coming in now. Was a photogrammetry replacing the default stuff. So you just see that change there. I am running at a slightly higher frame rate or FPS resolution as well while I record this. I'm in 14.4 right now. There's an aircraft coming right at us. So you can get the okay to do this sometimes. I've flown this way over Tampa, and I have flown this way over Pearson at 1 o'clock in the morning when I was coming back, and it was very quiet. They just gave me a direct routing over the airport to cut some distance off, which was very nice of them. Because if you don't, you've got to go all the way along the lake until past Mississauga and loop up around to get to Brampton. Alright, a little high again, so ease back a little bit on the power. So we get our altitude down. That's Highway 407. It's a toll road that runs north of the city. Try to keep traffic off of Highway 401, which is the main one. Don't know where this airplane's going. He landed very long if he's landing on that runway. Wow. Alright, so we're coming up to the airport. You can see it there ahead of us. We're going to be overflying runway 0523, which is the first one. There's two north-south runways, 15 left, 15 right, and 33 the opposite direction. There is two southern runways, 24 right, 24 left, 06 the opposite direction. The passenger terminals are on the left, and cargo is here on the north, FedEx and stuff like that. And we also have a cargo terminal in the infield, and then the private aircraft and charters, both here at the north end and at the infield as well. And in a flight I recently did, it should be up by now, my cross Canada tour in my private A320. The infield is where we parked when we got here to Toronto. Alright, so we're slowing down, so let's get the speed going again. There we go. Again, everything's about a balance, so as I'm pushing forward to get my speed up, I've got to add power. Because it's, keep those numbers coming up. Keep that vertical speed at 0 now. That's the shadow of the rotor. See somebody taxiing out. Again, this is AI traffic. I'm not on VATSIM or anything like that. Still quite haven't figured out how to do general aviation flying on VATSIM. Oh, it's a looks like a Skyways A320 down there. Fly UK. See KLM. Pretty cool. Here's the two terminals. First one we're coming here is Terminal 3. This is for basically non-Star Alliance aircraft, so WestJet park here, and KLM, Air France, a lot of that type of stuff. There's a Lufthansa in there. I'm not sure it would be in there in real life. And this is Terminal 1, Air Canada's terminal. Star Alliance, so you'd have Lufthansa, Emirates parks the 380s in here, you know, United, all those things. Oh, looks like one of the little T-45 fighter jets is down there as well. Oh, I got another one. And then here's the two southern runways coming up. Very nice. So we got one taxiing out there for takeoff as well. And some other traffic in the area. So we're over Mississauga now. I'm going to head down towards the lake. This is Highway 427, runs along the eastern side of the airport. And it's pretty much the division line between Mississauga and the city of Toronto proper, which we're going to cross over in a second. I know I've got her kind of tilted to the side. It's because I'm resting my arm as I push against the yoke. The cyclic, as they call it. All right. Heading down now, we're going to cross over the 427. You can see why we're wearing headphones today. It is very loud in this helicopter. So the city of Toronto amalgamated in 1987. There used to be 5 cities in this area. City of Toronto was the downtown. We're now over at Etobicoke. This was the western. You had Scarborough, which was the eastern. You had North York, which was up on the north end, north of the Highway 401, which we crossed over just south of the airport. And then there was 2 smaller boroughs. There was East York, and I think that's the 5 in Toronto. 1987, they all amalgamated to become the city of Toronto. They were under a quasi-overreaching government, which they called Metropolitan Toronto, but it became like 100% official, and all those city councils for those independent cities were dissolved. So this is now just the city of Toronto. Well, you still hear areas that are referred to by their old names. And yeah, and if you ever hear the Greater Toronto Area, that basically goes all the way from Oshawa, which is to the east, off that way that I'm looking, right into Toronto here, all the way out through Mississauga, Burlington, Oakville, and down towards Hamilton. That's kind of the Greater Toronto Area, or they call it the Golden Horseshoe, the highly populated area down here around the lake. There's another loading stutter. We're coming up to, well, you can see the river right there. That's the Humber River, and it empties into Lake Ontario. And down at the bottom of it, they've built a bunch of condos. Great views of the lake. You can see the lake right there. Very pricey condos. And then you can see the core of the city of Toronto. One thing that gets a lot of people pretty amazed is just how much green space there is in Toronto. There's a lot of parks, a lot of there's a number of rivers and waterways. There's ravines. There's a huge valley that actually has a highway running through it, the Don Valley. And you know, once you get out of the immediate downtown core, it opens up into a pretty green area. See the core ahead. I can see the CN Tower. You can see the Island Airport, which we'll come up to shortly. And no autopilot here, so we are kind of hand flying this thing. It is a lot of fun. So you can see we've got the marina down there. We've got some condos. We have they've even put the construction crane on the one that's being built right now, which is really cool. Although I think that is a little bit out of date now. The highway we're over now is the Gardner Expressway. It actually turns into the Queen Elizabeth Way, which goes all the way to Niagara Falls, loops around the other end of Lake Ontario. But in this part, once you cross the 427, it becomes the Gardner Expressway and runs right through the bottom of Toronto. And then you basically take up the Don Valley Parkway up the east side of Toronto, and that takes you out of the city. Alright, let's get a little bit forward momentum again. these two buildings here coming up were the first of the condos built down here at the lake. Here's the waterfront, huge park that runs along the edge of the lake here, and it provides a breakwater. They do all kinds of activities in the water, rowing clubs and stuff. A lot of sailboats out on the lake here in the summertime. Highway. Our altitude's coming down. We're only 600 feet now. We will have to go up when we reach the city proper. See where the boats would be in the marina here. Just loading in there. So I used to work downtown. You do recognize that intersection. It's I think that's the Queensway and might be King Street. I'm not sure. There's marinas out on the island. So over here, by the big turbine here, which is here in real life, one solitary turbine, or contribution to green energy, I guess. This is the Canadian National Exhibition annual summer event. It's been going on for well over 100 years, 150 years, 1800s anyway, at least. And if you've heard of the C&E Air Show, this is what it was hosted for. The air show on Labor Day weekend, beginning of September, would close out the C&E, those 3 days. And people would come down to the water here, right where we're kind of flying over, and they'd watch the air show, which would happen out over the lake. It'd be very impressive indeed. And that area out there is Ontario Place. It's been closed for a while. I don't know what they're doing with it, but used to have concerts in that weird fan-shaped building. It's the Molson Amphitheater. That dome was the first IMAX theater, the Cinesphere. So you still see some terrain glitches down here, but it's not too bad. So we're coming up into the downtown area here. Lots of condos. So, and again, lots of green area as well. Here's the island airport where we're going to be landing. There's now a tunnel there, but it used to be the only way across was a short ferry. It was the shortest commercial ferry in the world. You go from one side of the way to the other. You can just make out the pier there where it would go across, but they've actually built a tunnel underneath. I think Porter Airlines funded that. Makes it easier to get across. It's very nice. I've actually walked over there just for to see it. There's the harbor. See the Gardner Expressway is lifted up. Lakeshore Avenue runs underneath it along the lakeshore. So here's the CN Tower, and in front of that, the Sky Dome, or Rogers Center, I think it's still called, home of the Blue Jays, and I'll rub it into the Americans, the two-time World Series championship Blue Jays. Just slow down a little bit here. So you can see the sights. Seeing downtown Toronto. That's an old railroad roundhouse. There's a brewery in there now called Steam Whistle. But that used to be for part of the railway system here into Toronto. Kind of flying over the city here. That round building down there is Roy Thompson Hall. That's where the Toronto Symphony Orchestra play. They do their thing there, and it's a very modern building. Sounds great. I've been to a few concerts there. It's Union Station, the railway interchange for national, regional, and city train traffic. You can see the building with the maple leaf. That is, what the hell do they call that? That's where the Trump Maple Leafs play. Toronto Maple Leafs play their hockey. See we're over the buildings there. Bank of Montreal, Scotiabank, all the bank buildings. The building down there right now is the Royal York Hotel, built by the Canadian National Railway in the 1800s to get people to use the trains. It's a high-end hotel here in the city. Used to be the biggest building on the skyline. Not anymore. Alright, so we're in a complete hover here, but I want to get us going. We're going to head this way. Let's turn us around. There's some of the bank buildings. This is down there is Bay Street. It's kind of the financial area of Toronto. Although Montreal is the official financial capital of Canada. Building with the sharks. That's Ripley's aquarium. Very nice. It's they've done an amazing job with the space they have. It's a pretty dense attraction. See the banks there. CIBC. It's pretty cool. Again, you're not really supposed to be flying this close to them, but it's much better than it was. It's looking really cool. So there's the Sheraton Center. Now there's two buildings coming up here. You've got the old building there through the passenger door, and off the passenger front window you got that one with the two curved towers. That's old and new City Hall. We'll do a little bit of a spin here. So the new one, the rounded one here, is the current City Hall for the City of Toronto. It's the third one. The older building down here, the square, that's the old City Hall. The second one. It's so old they used to bring horses and carriages into the center there. That's from the late 1800s. The original one was a little bit further south of here, but it was destroyed a long time ago in a fire. And one last thing, as Toronto is the capital of Ontario, just gonna go up here. This is University Avenue. A lot of hospitals here. The world famous Sick Kids Hospital, Toronto General, Mount Sinai, all in here. And a little bit further up past the hospitals, you can see the hospital cross on that building where the helicopters come in. Are a lot of embassies. The U.S. Embassy is, well, it's actually behind us. There's a bunch of embassies here. And then we have the road splits around, and this is Queen's Park, the older looking building there at the top of the road. That is the Ontario Legislature, where the government of Ontario sits. Again, you can see just how much green there is out here. How are we doing with fuel? Oh, we're down to about half. We started at about 3/4 or so. And then we got the whole University of Toronto areas around here. Got huge campuses and everything. And the building here with the dome, and then the you'll see the sharp edges on it on the other side. That is the Royal Ontario Museum. Pretty world famous. And that dome building used to be called the McLaughlin Planetarium. They used to do the whole stars thing and stuff. It's not that anymore. I don't know what they do with that building now. And I think that's Varsity Stadium. So the University of Toronto football team would play there, the Blues, I think they're called. And you can see the Toronto, how it just spreads out, and again, a lot of green everywhere. So we're going to head this way. And we'll come around. We'll head down and we'll go into the airport and land. Let's see if I can do this without completely buggering it up. It's the Hudson's Bay building. See some of the older companies that used to be in here. Manulife, that's an insurance company. It looks like they had an explosion on the top of the building, but it's all good. And again, lots of trees. Lots of neat areas down here in Toronto. Which, by the way, I'm not a city person myself, really. It just happens to be where I live. Although not nowhere downtown. Would not do that to myself. Some power going here. There we go. Just kind of resting my finger a little too heavily on the key there. Come around here. Head down out over the water, and then we'll come in runway, I think it's 24 here at the island, and we'll do our landing. So this is a working port. There are a lot of Laker freighters that come in and out of here. So we do get Laker traffic, and like I said, in the summertime when the weather gets nice, sailboats and other boats galore in the area here. It's very nice. We also get a lot of tall ships, so big sailing vessels will come in and out as well. Highway heading off there, and then of course once again you got the rail yards, and then south of the highway a lot of condos. If you're gonna come in and if you want to fly in, come in here at night. It's pretty nice views, especially landing on these runways. You get some nice views of the city. There's the airport. We'll bring it around. See the condos right there on the waterfront. A couple hotels. I'm not seeing any traffic coming in. Descending down. There's the waterfront. We do have fire and police boats down here. We do get the occasional military ship will come in and visit because we do have access to the Atlantic Ocean via the St. Lawrence Canal. Speed's coming back. We're descending. There's the other islands, yacht clubs, and there's a park out there. You can get over there by ferry. Leaves from the base of Toronto. Alright, 600 feet. Bring her down a little bit quicker. This is the island airport. This is where Porter Airlines and Air Canada fly Q400s out of. It's a nice little connector airport. It's nowhere near as busy as the main one. Hover taxi down the runway. That's where they would fly out of. You usually see all the Q400s in there. We're going to go up to the western end of the airport here and we'll park out there. Here's where all the gates would be. And then there's general aviation comes out of here. There's a flight school. I think a couple of the news helicopters would be out of here as well. And yeah. I think sometimes the military comes down here and parks there as well. So there's where we're going. Slow down our forward speed a little bit. Don't want to touch the ground. You got to be very much on hands-on with this thing. Alright, so we want to get her turned and we want to go forward a little bit. We're going to go park beside that green airplane. Really got to tell it what to do. Just let her go sideways until we want to straighten up for touchdown. You can see we're only a few feet off the ground here. Just the fire hall. Alright, so sort of slowing her down. Drift. You want to drift. Straighten her up. Well, and we're down. Really wish that would stop doing that. Alright, so collective goes all the way down. We will disengage the governor. And the nav lights will come off. The landing lights will come off. Or the strobe lights will come off. mixture off, and mags, instruments lights off. We'll leave the beacon on until the rotors come to a stop, which does take a little while. As you can see. So here we are down in the Toronto Island Airport. I hope you enjoyed your flight. This airplane's a lot of fun, and it's in easy mode. It's not a bad helicopter to learn on. So thank you very much for joining us, and I look forward to doing another flight somewhere else in the world in this. We'll see you then. Bye for now.